What is the significance of the family? Marriage, child rearing, husband, wife? Is it a social accident, or perhaps does the family have some more significance? Is the family something intended by God to be a witness to Him and His love? That's what we're going to talk about on today's edition of Truth for a New Generation. The family. We're all, in one way or another, part of a family. If you're a Christian, you're also a part of God's family of believers. But the human family, parents, children, husbands, wives, aunts, uncles, grandparents, there are so many things about the family that bring to mind so many memories, so many assumptions, so many images. The family is under attack right now. The family, at least in the Western world and in North America and the USA, the family needs a little bit of help. And on this edition of Truth for a New Generation, where we talk about biblical worldview, we're going to talk about relationships, healthy dynamics, and yes, the family. In just a few moments, we've got a very special guest, a licensed mental health professional and counselor. And we're going to talk a little bit about family. But I want to say this, for one thing, welcome, and I'm so glad you're watching. And we're talking about something that really is a biblical and worldview issue, and that's the family. You know, the family, I believe, I am convinced, was intentionally designed by God to be a witness to the gospel. Sure, I mean, it's within the home that children grow up and children learn about accountability and grace and forgiveness and so many things. And we're born into a family. We become who we are in the context of family. But I actually believe that the family is like a sermon almost, like a gospel tract to point us to Jesus. And one of the reasons that evangelism, especially among young people, is kind of flat is because in America as a whole, for recent decades, the family has been dying. The family has been suffering. Sadly, within evangelical Christianity, very often even divorce is worse. The statistics on divorce are higher than that of the world. All sorts of negative, even tragic dynamics are present within family. But I want to read a quote. James Dobson, a dear man for whom I worked, Dr. Dobson said this, now, wonderful observation. He said, when the family operates as God intended, the needs of all are met in a beautiful relationship of symbiotic love. It's very poetic, isn't it? The family, a beautiful relationship of symbiotic love. Let me share another quote by another beloved Christian leader, John MacArthur. John MacArthur says, people were made for fellowship. Bars and cliques and even gangs show that people, even in unhealthy contexts, were made for fellowship. And Dr. MacArthur says this, perhaps the bars and the gangs flourish, not because people want to become violent or alcoholics, but because we are inherently made for fellowship, relationship. And we are so wired for relationships that sometimes we settle for a counterfeit or a substitute. Now, when we come back, we're going to speak with Alicia Brown, a licensed therapist and mental health professional. We're going to be talking about some ways that you and I can have positive relationships even amidst the stresses of 21st century life. Stay tuned. Truth for a New Generation is back after this.
Have you ever wanted to raise your hand during a sermon? Well, here's your chance. Hi, Alex McFarland here from the nationally syndicated radio program Exploring the Word. For more than 10 years, my co-host Bert Harper and I have taught Scripture and answered hundreds of Bible questions. We've compiled a brand new book of the top 100 Bible questions from listeners of all ages, from questions about supposed Bible contradictions to apologetics facts that prove the truths of Scripture. This new book features practical content that will make the Bible come alive for you.
Can we really be sure that God exists?
Are there contradictions in the Bible?
I need a book that will help me understand the Bible better.
There's so much good content in this book.
100 Bible Questions and Answers, published by Broad Street Publishers and available online at your local bookstores and also through afastore.net.
Welcome back to Truth for a New Generation. Alex McFarland here. So glad you're watching. And we are glad to have back on our program for her second visit, Alicia Brown. And we appreciate you. Give us an update on your work as a counselor and licensed counselor, mental health professional, and leader of the Oaks community. First of all, welcome back, but give us an update.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me. We're busy as ever. Lots of work with the counseling center and just keeping us busy all day long. And so, yeah, I'm excited to talk about all that's happened.
I want to throw something out here. When you and I talked before, we talked about family, relationships. I believe God wove into the fabric of reality relationships. Remember, even before the fall of Genesis 3, sin had not come into the equation, and there was something less than ideal. God said, it is not good for man to be alone. How important are healthy relationships in anyone's life?
You know, it is one of our main spokes in our holistic model at the Oaks. Thriving community is how we phrase that. And that understanding of I'm a part of something greater than myself. And I would say, you know, they are one of the key foundations to health and to happiness and fulfillment in life.
You know, as a Christian, you know, sharing the gospel, being a witness, that's one way we influence people. But even within the family, husbands and wives and parents and children, you know, we're to be role models. I heard a word some years ago in a conference, and I love it, that whether it's discipleship or just family dynamics, it's life-on-life transference.
That's good.
Comment on that. What did God have in mind when He made this world for relationships?
I think God loves that exchange between two people where you get to offer love to one another. I think that's beautiful in the husband and wife relationship. I know how big a blessing that's been to my life. I believe that God made my husband as a compliment to me, this person that God gave me and put in my house. And we get to just constantly exchange love and grace and stress sometimes.
Yeah.
But that give and take, I think, is really beautiful.
Well, it is. And, you know, I look back over my own life, and I'm a composite of all the people that invested in me.
Me too.
Don't you think we all are?
Yeah. And you do look back and you see how God has built who you are based on who's come into your path.
Yeah. Okay, given that, let's talk about marriage a little bit. You know, it's so funny. I read that sometimes wives come into the marriage hoping they can change the man. Men come into the marriage, they don't want anything to change. Don't cut your hair, don't change it. It's kind of true, isn't it?
Yes.
Josh McDowell, great Christian leader, he's been on the program, but he said, unconditional love is the root of everything. Not love if or love because, but just love. Let's talk about couples that they hit some static. And I think men a lot of times are guilty of this because they want the wife to, you know, be something. Wouldn't you say marriage and all relationships, they must be unconditional?
I would say that. And I think it's a big challenge, right?
Oh, yeah.
As in a counseling context and as a counselor, when you see someone who has that connection with God where they are growing and where God and what he says about them is their identity. And then the partner, the husband or wife, has that same foundation, then there can be really great progress fast. When I need too much from you because I'm not satisfied, myself and with God, then that's a really tight tension where I'm constantly needing too much. I'm needing you to change. I'm needing you to fill this need in me that I don't know how to fill on my own. And that drains marriages.
Are there some common areas in which 3, 5, 7 years in, couples run out of commitment or run out of gas? I mean, what are some of the top 2 or 3 ways that marriages begin to get into a danger zone?
What comes to my mind first with that is busyness. If you think about typically when children are born, and that comes into play. And if your relationship isn't strong and established, if you're having to roll with another external stress like the death of a parent or, a life circumstance that you didn't see coming, you're having to communicate through that, love one another through that. And then you add busyness, and then you add the stress of children and who's going to do what and who's going to get up at 3 a.m. Then I see, people hit brick walls. And then withdrawal, I would say, where we try and then we quit trying. And that's a danger zone.
Right. I think for marriages that unravel, in fact, just right now, I'm counseling a pastor friend who is having a family crisis. We often think about, the big overt sins like an affair or something like that. But very often it can be just resentment. It can be fatigue, just this simmering animosity. How do we just enjoy our spouse and enjoy our family, but be mindful of these areas that we don't want to fester into something significant?
Mindfulness in our personal wellness, I think, is really important. And so, like from a pastor example, pulled in all different directions, constantly something to do or somewhere
Super
to
busy.
go. We get drained. We're not superhumans. We're not God. And so being aware of how is my life structured? How is my day structured? I've had to really think about that as God has grown the oaks.
Right.
My prayer for every person that asks me is pray for balance so that, my relationship with God and my relationship with my family stays that top priority. And so I think that's kind of the danger zone, is when we get off balance and it lasts too long. And then we lose what's really important, what I want to focus on that day.
I often say, I've said it on the show, lose at anything else but win with your family. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes, because I think it is the foundation that then you're good at your job. If you're bringing all of that into the day and this person that you love so much and you've invested so much in isn't going well, it's very hard to shift your attention and be good at something else. You're bringing that with you to work.
Let's talk for a moment about just marriage. Now, when I do father-son weekends, or I speak at a lot of men's events, a lot of teen events, but I tell young men this. I'll say, look, the second greatest gift God will ever give you, second only to salvation, greatest gift in the world is Jesus and forgiveness. But the second greatest gift God will ever give you is a Christian spouse. I really believe that, because I know I am who I am because of Christ, but also because of Angie. I mean, for real. Now, we're living in a time when sociologists say that many young people don't care about really getting married. Marriage is just not on the agenda of a lot of young people. But if this is true, if the second greatest gift God will ever give us is family, then how do we communicate that to young people? And maybe light that fire for an ethic of family.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. I think about my 14-year-old son and who he is, his gifts. And then I think about the partner that God will give him in a wife and how she'll come alongside and complement that. Now, the benefit in our context is hopefully our children get to watch that, right?
Sure.
And so that's a big blessing that's not happening in many households today. So I think as a Christian community, it's really important that we're transparent with the way that we live and the way we parent and partner together as we raise a family, so that it's attractive, to somebody who has no context like that. And and we're approachable. So
Yeah.
they can come and say,
Yes.
like, how do y'all do that? How do you get through a disagreement and not fight?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I really listen to you and acknowledge what you said to me and then offer my opinion in a 10-minute conversation? Those basic skills are not learned in a majority of households. And so it's asking a lot for somebody to think, I'm going to stay married for 50 years and do this for 50 years.
Here's my question. If husbands and wives have spent years not being healthy in conflict, can they learn positive, healthy ways that are actually fruitful ways to deal with the dance?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I have no doubt. I've watched it happen in counseling. I'm a big advocate of set aside that time to work on those skills.
Right.
We're talking about skills that can be learned. And so as simple as pausing to give the other communicator time to voice their opinion, staying in check with your thoughts and emotions as you're listening, making time where I'm not tired, hungry, angry, stressed, to have those difficult conversations. So yes, I would say if they are intentional about setting aside time to learn those skills and then balancing their lives so that they can implement them, anybody can learn it.
Again, there's a lot we ought to talk about, and I hope we get the opportunity. I'm a Christian. I believe Jesus rose from the dead. Apologetics deals with evidence and the empty tomb and all that. But if you read the history of the first 2 centuries of the church, I think you're going to love this. How did the church turn the Roman Empire upside down for Christ? Well, scholars will say, well, the gospel, the tomb is empty. But do you know what history really tells us? And yes, it's true that it was the gospel. But one of the ways that the church, the whole world was against the church, and yet within 100 years after Christ's resurrection, Christianity was well on its way to dominating the world on the strength of the family. And I was reading a Pulitzer-nominated historian who had written about the early church. And he said, look, at a time when life was cheap and female babies were discarded because everybody wanted a son, the Christians cared for the elderly, raised children, adopted the orphans, and that Christianity won. And by 225 to 300, Christianity had overtaken pretty much the entire civilized world. Yes, the gospel is true, but it was the family. And what I want to say for this generation is become a champion for family.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It changes everything.
And it blesses we. And I want to say to all the men there, and then I'm going to let you finish, love your wife, you will get the blessing. The best thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother. And if we invest in family, not only is it the right thing to do, a positive thing, but we end up being the recipient of the blessings, don't we?
It's really good. Yeah, absolutely. It's so tempting in today's culture to want to buy and do and go amazing places, for your children and with your spouse. I have to check myself and remember that it's those basic day-to-day, I'm sitting with you and care about what you care about, even if I don't really care about what you care about. I do, because I'm with you and you care about it. And so I'm willing to, engage in those moments and let that build our relationship. It's not about the amazing trips. It's not about, the $500 Christmas presents. It's really about, I care about you and we're doing life together, husband and wife, parent and child. And you're right, that's attractive to the world. I mean, it does change. It's magnetic. And the way that's displayed in the Bible, is gorgeous.
Yeah.
We see mistakes, right?
Sure.
We see where we don't choose what God has best for us.
Right.
But the grace then comes in. We can get through a difficult conversation and our relationship is restored, just like our relationship with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what matters.
Relationships take investment.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're worth it.
Well, they really are. One more time, give us your website, and I know churches and leaders across the country, they may want to, reach out and, pick your brain. But tell us again, what is the Oaks community doing, and where can people find you?
Thank you. So we really try to form relationships. That's the core of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I did Young Life way back in college, and I think that's where I really understood more about the relationship that Jesus offers in the Bible, for sure. I didn't grow up learning that and really understanding what that looked like in day-to-day life. And so I was sold when I started learning what's offered there. And so that's the core of the Oaks, coming alongside someone, partnering with them to help them find worth and wellness through community programs, through individual counseling, and then through Bible studies and just that one-on-one investment in each other's lives.
And your website is?
www.theoakscommunity.org.
Theoakscommunity.org. We've got to pull away. I look forward to when we can talk again. This is Truth for New Generation. Stay tuned, because when we come back, the biblical bottom line.
I just returned from a conference at the Cove, and it was absolutely breathtaking in every way. The mountain views, the tranquil areas within the woods, and just being alone with God. Mornings spent watching the sunrise from a rocking chair with coffee in one hand and my Bible in the other. Evenings spent reflecting on the incredible spiritual teaching. It's the embodiment of peacefulness. Come and experience the Cove for yourself.
The longer I live and the more I've been in ministry and just my own personal journey, the more passionately committed I am to family. Oh, family is a gift from God. Let me encourage you right now to pray and thank God for family and invest in your own familial relationships. My books, like the 21 Toughest Questions Your Kids Will Ask About God, and some of the other, we wrote a series of devotional books for young people. All of that really ultimately is designed not only to evangelize and equip, but to promote family. Hey, there was a book that came out a couple of years ago called How the West Really Lost God by two sociologists, Bradford Wilcox and Mary Eberstadt. And I want to read a quote from this book, How the West Really Lost God. It says, "The recent history of American religion illuminates what amounts to a sociological law. The fortunes of American religion rise or fall with the state of the family." End of quote. See, a lot of people think it's, the colleges went liberal and therefore kids don't go to church much anymore. Well, many colleges are liberal. But here's the deal. The health of the family will define the growth of the church. And so, yes, learn apologetics, know what you believe, follow trends of culture and politics. But if you want to see the church grow, be a champion for family. So here's the biblical bottom line. The family is no just sociological accident. The family was designed by God to be a gospel tract, if you will. Because the gospel, it's about love. It's about commitment. It's about relationship. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that you can have a relationship through faith. Well, the family, it's about love, commitment, relationship, self-service. And just as salvation yields the greatest blessing of all, heaven, well, the family yields great blessings. I promise you, all that you invest in your family and your marriage and your relationships, it's worth it. And the recipient of all the benefits, it's going to be you. So for God, for this country, and for yourself, become a person committed to family.
Man, before I came to Charis, I was so broken.
I dealt a lot with anxiety and depression.
I didn't really realize I could have an actual relationship with God.
When I came here, I started to see God like, he just wants to have a relationship with me. It totally transformed the way I look at God.
God longs to have fellowship with you.
This is where faith comes from. It's not just head knowledge, Bible school knowledge, it's revelation knowledge that changes you.
Just been set free from a lot of the bondage I was in.
I haven't been depressed in so long.
Pretty awesome having that just weight lifted and putting on Jesus' yoke.
You come here and you meet God personally, and then He gives you a whole new direction.
This is a time, this is a season of your life that God's wanting to show you who you really are and what He's wanting to do in your life.
If you have a desire for Bible college, God's the one that put it there.
If you're considering coming to Charis, I just want to say it's going to be one of the best decisions you've made in your life.
Hi, I want to say thank you for watching Truth for a New Generation television, and I want to thank all of the partners that pray for this ministry and support this ministry. Oh my goodness, so many good things are going on. We're on the radio 7 days a week. We're on television multiple days a week. We've got books that are going out, and our ministry is personally shipping out something like 70,000 books a year to people that reach out to us and they say, help us. We need help. We need hope, and we're glad that we can be there, but we are able to be there for people thanks to you. We've got our conferences we do. I'm just about to fly to Flint, Michigan to speak, and after that, I'll be going to Colorado to speak in several locations, and I'll be in front of young people, and I value your prayers, but friend, we need your support. When you donate to Alex McFarland Ministries, Truth for a New Generation, listen, it's tax deductible, it's gratefully received, faithfully handled. So here's what I want to do to just show some thanks and to help you along the topic that we've been discussing, marriage, family, child rearing. We did this video a couple of years ago called the 21 Toughest Questions Your Kids Will Ask About God. Now you've got 7 hours of video, you've got a leader's guide, you've got a participant's workbook. Many churches use this in their Wednesday and Sunday night services, but this won an award. I give God the glory. Best Video Curriculum of the Year. Now, for your tax-deductible gift of at least $50, I'm going to send you this 7-hour video, your gift for at least $50. If you could make your gift at least $75 or more, you get your choice of 2 T-shirts. Now, this is what we give out in a lot of our youth events. Our youth camp attendees get the unashamed T-shirt. I'm not ashamed of the gospel, and you can specify that. Or the retro, really cool, Better Living Through Apologetics, Truth for a New Generation. Now, your gift of at least $50, you get the video series of 21 tough questions your kids will ask about God. You make that gift at least $75 and let us know, do you want the blue or the black? Just say blue or black. You can give securely online at alexmcfarland.com, alexmcfarland.com, or you can write to us at the address on the screen. Thanks for watching, and may God bless you.